Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen Scully, and I am a management consultant with McKinsey and Company. And if you're like me, you've probably heard the word consultant, but don't actually know what that means. And I probably didn't know until I became a consultant 10 years ago. So hopefully I can help clarify a little bit about what that means. So all major companies, whether it's Amazon, Google, Apple, Walmart, they need to make big decisions such as, should I open a new store? Should I acquire a company? Should I hire more people? Should I let go of some people when the economy is bad? And rather than hiring people just to solve these problems that you only have the question for 1 month or 2 months, they bring in a consulting company, and they are advisors who bring a third party perspective and make recommendations to the companies. And so sometimes consultants, they literally just give a recommendation, and it can be a PowerPoint presentation. Sometimes they give a recommendation and then actually stay and help the companies make the change, right? Whether it's buy a company or install a new software. But there's a lot of big companies. You may have heard the names of McKinsey, Bain, BCG, Accenture, Deloitte, PwC, IBM. All of these companies have consulting arms. And so that is what I do. So I'll give you a bit about my background. So I went to Rocky Hill High School, which is pretty close to you guys over in Portland. I graduated in 2009, so over 10 years ago, showing my age, but I really loved the West and I wanted a change of scenery. So I went to Colorado College, which is a small liberal arts school in Colorado Springs. And I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I actually first majored in political science because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I was quite argumentative as a child, and my parents always joked that I would be a good lawyer. So I thought I wanted to do that. I took all these political science classes, which were like a mix of history and, you really got to work on your communication skills. But I decided I didn't want to go to law school. I didn't want to spend $200,000 and keep going to school for another 3 years. And so I decided to switch gears and I became an economics and business major. And so this is a little more quantitative. So I graduated with the econ major, and I started to work for Accenture, and I worked for 5 years as a consultant. And then a lot of people in this field get an MBA. You don't have to usually, but it is nice to have, and it can open up more options. So I decided I would apply, and if I got into a school that I was excited about, I would go. And so I did end up going in 2019 to business school. And so most MBAs are either 1 year or 2 years. And of all the graduate schools, it is considered one of the more fun because a big part of it is networking. And so you get to meet a lot of really great people and form these relationships. So it's a bit about my education and kind of how I got into this field. The day to day changes quite a bit, which is one of the reasons that I do like it so much. And so in a normal week, you would literally travel from your home city to a client site. So let's say I'm based in Seattle and my client is in Chicago. You would get on a flight on Monday morning and go, and then spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with that client. And so a big part of it is meeting the clients and getting to learn their business. Um, there'll be a lot of interviews, usually a lot of data collection, and then your actual work can be, some people do more financial analysis or models. I don't usually do as much of that. I do a little bit, but I do more on the PowerPoint and communication. So once you actually come up with an idea, you need to convince the client that that's what they should do. And so I spend a lot of my time with my team figuring out, how do we show them, here's your options, here's which one we think is the best. So that's my day to day. There is a lot of variety, which I think goes into what is my favorite part of the job. To me, it was very scary to think about all of a sudden going into the same office for the next 20 years and hanging out with my 10 coworkers like until I quit. That just sounded very scary. So what I love about consulting is that you basically get a new job. I was gonna say that one of my favorite parts is the variety of the work. And so you work with new people, you work on new topics. And to me, that's just really exciting. to not have to just have the monotony of the same job over and over. So I'll give you a few examples of some of the things that I've done. I was working with a mining company, and I got to go to Northern Australia to work in the mines up there and learn about their process and figure out what they could do better. This past year, I was working in Toronto on a oven manufacturing line, which was really random, and just figuring out how could they put their parts and do things in a different order to be more efficient. And then right now I'm working with a company on their product strategy, figuring out what new markets should they go into. So totally random topics, totally random industries. And I think if you're really excited about seeing new things and you're just a curious person, I think it's a really great career. There's also a lot of opportunity for travel, which is really great. I've been able to travel to quite a few countries and continents, and most of them, or a lot of them, were because of work. So not only do you get to travel for work, but you get points and free hotel nights and miles that you can then, with your personal time with your friends or significant other, then travel as well. So the least favorite parts of the job, I think, the other hand of the coin of the variety and switching jobs, it is sometimes it's not very predictable, right? So if I want to make if Anna and I want to go on a girls' trip this summer, I don't know what my job's going to look like this summer. I don't know if I'll be traveling somewhere, COVID aside. I don't know if I'll be traveling somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where my client will be. I don't know what my hours will be. So it's not very predictable. So I think that is one challenge. But I do think the biggest challenge is probably the hours. So some people, they really want to work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. And consulting, it is a lot more hours. So usually people say that like investment banking is kind of the most hours. This is usually considered the second most in terms of intense jobs out of college. So the hours are a lot sometimes. If I want to like watch The Bachelor on a Monday, sometimes I still have to do work. So it is not for the faint of heart. I think if people really are strict on the 40 hours, it's not the best career option. But if you're excited about learning new things and traveling, it is a great option. So the last thing I want to touch on is the skills that I think make someone a really great consultant. I think the first piece is being flexible. A lot of weeks you don't know where you're going to be working, where you're going to be staying, who you're going to be meeting, and just being adaptable and being able to flex even on like what food you eat. It's just really important to be flexible. You never know where you're going to be. The other thing is being able to think on your feet. A lot of times you'll be working at a client site and you'll run into a client and they'll say, "Hey, Sam, I have a question for you." And you can't say, "I don't know." You need to think about an answer, or even if it's "I don't know," you need to think about how you phrase it well. So being able to think on your feet, numbers, even if you're not doing deep analysis, there are almost always financial implications. So being able to speak to, being comfortable with Excel, being comfortable with numbers, that is important. And then the final skill is communication. At the end of the day, what consultants do is try to convince companies to do something. And so if you might have the best idea in the world, but if you can't communicate it clearly, no one's going to do it. And so whether it's email communication, verbal communication, how you communicate in stories through PowerPoint, that's really, really important. And I think that's a skill that in college I was able to write a lot, and I think really helped me in this job, because even just email communication, something that you may take for granted, it is a skill. So I think that's my overview of a career in management consulting. Are there any questions?
Could you touch a little bit on, like you said, you went to a lot of places. Tell me the craziest place you've been, the most interesting place you've been, something like that.
Yeah. So when I worked for this mining company I was consulting for them for almost 2 years, which is a very long time. Normally it's more like a few months, but I liked it. So I just kept working with them. And they asked me if I would fly to Mongolia to basically help work with the Mongolians and figure out basically it was actually really hilarious. Everyone wanted to work at the mine site because you made a lot more money, but it was super expensive. And so we all of a sudden had tens of thousands of people working at this mine site. And basically our job, we had a team of 4 people, was to figure out who actually needed to be there and who was just there because they wanted to make more money and be away from their families. And so we went there and had all these workshops and came up with the recommendation. So that was really random. Being in Mongolia in winter, definitely not something I had ever planned to do, but it was very interesting. I did get to I worked in India for 2 months, which my father was originally a little nervous about, but they said I had 2 hours. They said, we have a team in India. We need someone to go over there and help be the connector between our American team and our Indian team. Will you go? And I had 2 hours to decide. And I said, I can't pass this up. So that was really fascinating as well. I do think, yeah, the international travel is amazing. Not everyone gets to do it, but again, it comes back to flexibility. I basically was willing to drop anything. You know, there were times I missed holidays, I missed vacations, but to me at the time, my main priority was to work internationally. And so if that's your main goal, it's definitely possible to do it.
Thank you very much for being here and doing this
Yes,
interview for us.
of course.
Yeah, it really means a lot. Hopefully, everyone, if anyone who's watching this, got some insight over about your career. And yeah, just again, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And anyone, feel free to email me. You have my email address. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to email me. And otherwise, I'll let you get on to the next interviews.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.